We don't care enough right now. And that's the part that bothers you a lot. We don't care enough to do the things that are necessary. We don't care enough to be a professional.
I'm simply saying, yo, he's not ready yet. And to put him out there, getting him exposed to that is really hard to watch.
The discussion surrounding Bronny James has reached its first major crossroads, and this time it feels different. It no longer seems like media hype or exaggerated headlines. Instead, it feels like reality has entered the conversation. After months of constant debates, viral moments, reactions from former players, and endless attention on social media, Bronny is now encountering a stage that every young NBA player eventually faces: the reality check phase. This isn't the stage of highlights or compelling storylines. It's the stage where playing time becomes harder to earn, mistakes carry greater consequences, and raw potential is judged against actual results on the court. As a result, the tone of the conversation has started to shift. What once sounded like curiosity and excitement now sounds much more like criticism and evaluation. The situation intensified after a stretch in which Bronny's role with the Los Angeles Lakers became increasingly unpredictable. In some games, he displayed encouraging signs: high energy, defensive commitment, and smart decisions from a young guard still learning the NBA game. In others, he looked like many rookies do while adjusting to the league, showing hesitation, missing opportunities, and struggling with the speed of professional competition. But the biggest change hasn't been his performance alone. It's the expectations attached to it. Bronny isn't being viewed as a typical developmental prospect. He's being viewed as one of the biggest storylines in basketball, and that brings a level of scrutiny most young players never experience.
Just give me what do you think his career is going to look like in the NBA?
One and done.
The statistics paint a straightforward picture, but the surrounding circumstances make it far more complicated. With limited playing time, changing roles in the rotation, and few scoring opportunities, Bronny has struggled to find a consistent rhythm on the court. Many analysts argue that his low usage naturally suppresses his numbers and makes it difficult to fully evaluate his game. However, critics see it differently. They contend that even within the minutes he receives, the level of aggression and consistency needed to secure a lasting NBA role hasn't consistently appeared yet. The reality likely falls somewhere between those viewpoints. Bronny remains a young player in the middle of his development, but the NBA rarely slows down to accommodate growth. Expectations continue moving forward regardless, and that's where the pressure begins to build. The challenge becomes even greater when you're entering the league under the enormous shadow of LeBron James. Development is no longer a private journey that unfolds behind the scenes. It becomes a public spectacle. Every possession is examined through the lens of legacy. Every mistake sparks debate. Every step forward is measured against standards that are almost impossible to reach. At this point, the reality check goes beyond wins, losses, or individual performances. It's about recognizing that in today's NBA, public narratives often move much faster than a young player's development process.
I am pleading with LeBron James as a father. Stop this. Stop this. We all know that Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad.
This is the point where the narrative began moving away from optimism and toward intense scrutiny. Earlier in the season, conversations centered on potential, opportunity, and the importance of patience. Now, the tone is noticeably different. Social media has increasingly highlighted missed shots, defensive mistakes, and long stretches on the bench. Sports debate programs have shifted their focus as well, turning discussions about development into questions about whether he's truly ready for the NBA stage. Once the media cycle reaches that point, changing the narrative becomes incredibly difficult. The reason is simple. Perception often drives the conversation more than actual progress. What many people overlook is that Bronny's reality check extends beyond basketball ability. It also involves managing the emotional demands that come with unprecedented attention. Most rookies are given the chance to struggle, learn, and improve away from the spotlight. Their mistakes rarely become major talking points. Bronny doesn't have that luxury. Because of his name and the market he plays in, every mistake receives far more attention than it otherwise would. That kind of environment can dramatically affect how a young player handles pressure. Rather than developing quietly behind the scenes, he's growing in front of a worldwide audience that analyzes and reacts to every moment almost instantly.
I want to let my man have to tell about Bronny. How you feel about Bronny?
I don't like Bronny James. I don't. I just feel like he's just one of those, my dad's here. You can't tell me what to do. He's a little kid running around.
What makes Bronny's situation even more challenging is the environment he's developing in. The Los Angeles Lakers are not an organization built around lengthy rebuilding projects or patient development stories. Their culture revolves around winning, high expectations, and the constant pursuit of championships. Because of that, young players rarely receive unlimited time to work through mistakes at their own pace. If consistency isn't there, rotations can tighten quickly. That's not something unique to Bronny. It's simply part of the pressure that comes with playing for the Lakers. However, in his case, the spotlight magnifies every detail. One of the biggest observations surrounding Bronny right now is the unpredictability of his role. Some nights he receives valuable minutes to learn, contribute, and gain experience. Other nights his opportunities are far more limited. While coaches continue emphasizing development, defensive improvement, and understanding the system, many fans interpret those fluctuations differently. Instead of seeing a long-term development plan, they see uncertainty. And in the NBA media landscape, uncertainty often evolves into panic-driven narratives, regardless of whether they're justified. That's where the idea of a reality check really begins to emerge. Not because Bronny has failed, but because expectations have finally collided with the difficulty of succeeding in the NBA. The league doesn't reward potential, family history, or compelling storylines. It rewards execution. Every young player eventually reaches the point where performance becomes the deciding factor, and Bronny is currently navigating that stage. This is often where young players make critical mistakes. In an effort to prove themselves, they try to accelerate their development timeline. They force plays, rush decisions, and attempt to turn every possession into evidence that they belong. Instead of allowing growth to happen naturally, they chase validation. That approach frequently creates even more inconsistency, and inconsistency is something NBA rotations rarely tolerate for long. The conversation surrounding Bronny continues to return to the expectations that existed long before he entered the league. His journey was always going to be different because of his last name, the attention surrounding him, and the historic significance of sharing the NBA stage with his father. But the narrative has evolved. What was once viewed as a story of opportunity is increasingly being framed as a test of long-term viability. Can he develop like a normal player while living under an extraordinary spotlight? From a statistical standpoint, his early NBA experience resembles what many developmental guards go through: limited scoring opportunities, low usage rates, and an emphasis on learning team concepts rather than carrying an offense. The difference is how those numbers are perceived. For most rookies, modest production is expected. For Bronny, it instantly becomes a national discussion. That's the essence of the reality check dynamic. The focus isn't only on what he produces, it's on how every result is interpreted. The Lakers are also experiencing the effects of that conversation. Every decision involving Bronny now receives scrutiny. When he plays, observers view it as an investment in development. When he doesn't, people speculate about organizational concerns or pressure management. Neutral interpretations have become increasingly rare, and that atmosphere influences how every appearance is discussed across the basketball world. Another factor adding weight to the situation is the emotional burden that comes with being part of a historic basketball narrative. Bronny isn't only developing as a player, he's developing as a symbol of legacy. Every positive step receives amplified attention, and every setback becomes a major talking point. Most rookies are simply allowed to be players. Bronny exists as both a player and a storyline at the same time. Former players and analysts remain divided on Bronny James. Some urge patience, pointing out that young guards often need years to develop consistency. Others argue that the NBA is a results-driven league where performance matters more than potential. That debate highlights the challenge Bronny faces. Every game is now viewed as evidence for one side or the other. Strong performances are seen as proof of progress, while struggles fuel criticism. The issue is no longer just his talent, it's how quickly narratives form around him. Inside the Lakers organization, the focus remains on long-term growth, including defense, decision-making, and understanding the system. Outside the team, however, fans and media want immediate answers. The pressure is intensified by his connection to LeBron James. Bronny isn't only trying to establish himself as an NBA player, he's trying to do it while living under one of the biggest legacies in sports. Still, a reality check doesn't mean failure. It simply means reaching the stage where potential must start turning into consistent production. Some believe it's too early to judge, while others see his current struggles as cause for concern. What is clear is that the early hype has faded and the evaluation phase has begun. In the NBA, opportunities are earned through consistent performance, not storylines. Bronny has now entered that critical stage, and what happens next will shape how his early career is ultimately viewed.